In this non-sleep deep rest practice, we're going to explore the sensations in our physical body, allowing the body to soften and melt, and taking a look at whether the boundary between our body and everything else is quite as solid as we imagined. You might find there's a sense of connection with everything in the world, and that you don't feel as isolated and alone and separate as you imagined you were. But first of all, take a few moments to get as comfortable as possible. If at any point in the practice you're not enjoying it, you're always free to open your eyes, rub your face, and go about your day. But otherwise, just take these first few moments to find some stillness, to find some rest as we start our journey. We're just going to remind ourselves that this is a moment out for ourselves. Could say this is time out for ourselves. Sometimes people don't like the sound of time out. It sounds a bit void or a bit pointless. So you could just, if it helps, just phrase it as a moment out or some space for ourselves that we're carving out of what's probably going to be a busy day. And it's totally valid and okay to take this time for ourselves. We often feel that it's not reasonable. We might feel that we don't deserve it, or we should be doing something else. And that's what we've been told for our entire life by school, culture, our jobs. We need to be seen to be busy all the time, to be acceptable. But that's just a construction. That's not actually real. No one said at the dawn of time that humans have to be constantly busy to be accepted. So see if you're holding any tension that you can feel. Maybe that the body's feeling tense. There may be parts of the body that feel tense, maybe the shoulders or the neck or the jaw. And we can even begin by using that tension as the tool for our concentration. So pinpointing the most tense muscle that we can find. We don't need to know what that muscle's called or what it's attached to or any of the details. But somewhere in our body we will be able to locate the most tense area or muscle or tissue. See if you can just pick that out. Notice what you experience about that tension, because tension can feel very solid, very concrete, very immovable. Is it really as solid as it seems? Are you able to maybe breathe directly into that area, or imagine that you're breathing directly into that area? There might be a feeling that as you take the breath towards it, the tension just starts to gently break apart or soften or melt, whatever works for you. And as you breathe out, you just carry away any of that tension with the breath. Maybe the jaw that you thought was relaxed, or the shoulders that you thought were relaxed, actually start to fall towards the ground slightly, as they give up their struggle with gravity. Maybe we realize that we don't need to hold on to that. We didn't even realize we were holding on to it. Now, from that small area of focus, allow your focus to spread over the whole body. So rather than tuned in on one small area, you now feel it covering your whole body. It might feel like a blanket draped over you. Or maybe it feels as if it's dissolving through your bloodstream to every cell. Your awareness or your knowing just carried equally to every cell in your body. Feel as if your entire body is very alive. Sometimes it feels as if the mass of sensations, when we become mindfully aware, is almost overwhelming. Almost as if there's just too much to be aware of. just soften a little bit. If it feels as if it's too much, it's probably because you're trying to focus too tightly, and you can't focus on the whole body. You have to allow that focus to become blurred. You get more of a sense or more of a feeling. So as we've shifted into this mindful awareness, there might still be the recognition that some areas are more comfortable and some areas are less so. You can still work on softening tension, allowing the shoulders, the tummy, the jaw to soften. But try not to reject the less comfortable areas, as if you don't want to feel them. That's not true mindfulness. You don't have to feel them to an extent that you feel unable to cope with. But there can just be an awareness that there is comfort and there is discomfort, and they're both okay. In fact, to call them comfort and discomfort isn't really true anyway. Because they're constantly changing and shifting. There's an endless stream of sensation. What moment in that endless stream could we possibly identify as comfortable or uncomfortable? As soon as we've noticed it, it's already gone, to be replaced by the next moment. So soften your focus even more. Stop trying to catch or seize or hold on to any moment of your experience, because that's impossible. As soon as we try to do that, we end up living just a second behind what's really happening. End up living inside a memory or a thought about something that just was, that has already passed. And let this noticing or this knowing spread outwards right to the boundary of your physical body. Out to the skin, even where the skin moves internally into your nostrils, inside your ears, inside your mouth. All of the focus comes to this boundary between the physical body and what seems to be outside of it, or underneath it, or behind it. Can you feel or sense that boundary? Maybe some parts of it are more obvious than others, like the scalp, or parts of the body that are touching the chair or the floor. The face. What parts of that boundary seem to be missing? Maybe there's a lack of connection with the thighs or the shins or some other part of the body, that there just seems to be a void or an emptiness. You focus in on that void or that space in sensation. How do you know it's there? Is it framed by other areas where you can feel sensation? Or is there something there and you're just overlooking it, or it's very subtle? Maybe it's making contact with your clothes, Maybe it's making contact with the air. You actually locate the boundary between your physical body and what lies outside it. Is it as though there's a very well defined line where you could say everything this side of the line is me and everything the other side of the line is not me? Or is that boundary actually more liquid in nature, more blurred than you imagined? Maybe we're not so isolated, separate, alone as we thought we were. Maybe we all feel this connection to the same thing at the boundary of our bodies. Everybody is touching that same space. And everybody is somehow mingled with that same space. And that feeling of being a very small, separate me is actually just an idea that we never really explored. So gently just relocate your breath now You might have forgotten all about it. The breath is there waiting for you like a thread, just to guide you back. Find that breath and just allow it to become more solid. Just reconnect with it. And over the next few breaths, you might imagine that you're just climbing up that thread. And as you climb up that thread of the breath, you just slowly find in yourself becoming aware of the whole body, internally and out. Noticing the room around you, the ground, the chair or the bed underneath you. Noticing some gentle movement starting to creep back into the fingers, the toes, as you start to get this image of a body again returning. Maybe finding a little stretch or a wiggle, rub of the face, rub of the hands. Anything that you need. Finally letting the eyes crack open when it's time. And knowing that it might take a little while just to sort of transition back into the room you're in or the space you're in. Sometimes we can be left feeling a bit dreamy or similar to when we've woken up in the morning after a big sleep. And that's very normal.